Hello everyone, and welcome to day 1 of the installment of my 365-day project. Yeah! So, today, I figured I'd be doing a dramatic reading of my short story that I wrote today. Well, not today, but yeah. So, hopefully you enjoy, and let's get this thing started. From the moment we are born, our life can be described by a row of dominoes, each domino having an infinite amount of paths to follow, and each of these paths having infinitely many paths branching off from them. Every decision we make sets off a new path, and now my path is heading towards a cliff, and it feels as though there is no escape. By now, you must be wondering why I'm saying this, as if you really cared. I can tell you right now you don't, nor will you care by the time this story is done. All you'll do is glance at it once, throw it away, and continue on in your happy little existence. And for those who continue reading and are hoping for a happily ever after ending, put this paper down now, because I'm sorry to tell you, but this story doesn't end happily. I never thought I would say those 3 words. Those 3 words that so many find so easy to say. I said them to him no less, and they came out so easily. I wish they hadn't. I wish I had never said them, so I could at least not feel so vulnerable. Telling Derek I love you is the biggest mistake I'll ever make. At this rate, it's the only mistake I will ever make. My name is Jacob. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior on his way towards graduation. I was accepted to 3 Ivy League universities, Princeton, Yale, and Harvard. My life hasn't been an easy one, but for the past few years, it's been pretty good. Until now. The past few years have gone swimmingly. Now, I'm sure at this point you must be wondering, well, what's so bad about you telling a man that you love him? And at the same time, you're probably finding the fact that I told a man I love him so repulsive and disgusting because of your ideologies. Or perhaps not your ideologies, but the ideologies instilled in you by your parents. Well, let me spell it out for you. I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, I have a feeling you don't understand the brevity of that little fact, so let me make it a little clearer. Birmingham, Alabama. The most gay-hating, homosexual-bashing, fag-beating, queer-burning city of the world is my place of residence. Now do you understand how serious this is? At this point, I'm sure the next question is clear. Why did you tell him? And to that question, I have no answer. I wish I hadn't, and I'm regretting every second of it, but the words themselves came out so suddenly and so easily, I never thought it would happen. Because of my past, the word love means a lot, and I don't throw it around lightly. And for me to just be able to tell Derek that means a lot. Too bad I won't be alive long enough to find out what happens. You see, in Alabama, fag beating is the state sport. I'm surprised the flag isn't adorned with a mob beating a homosexual to death. Dramatic page turn. Derek was my closest friend. He'd been there for me since the death of my mother. He has been the one person I have always been able to rely on. However, the closer we got, the more I fell in love with him because he gave me the one thing my life had never been able to offer: security. And me, being the foolish, naive human being I am, threw it all away by being an idiot and saying how I truly felt. The sad part is, to me, all I ever wanted in my life was to be happy, and whatever time I spent with him, I was irrevocably happy. But I go and throw it all away on love, the one thing responsible for the most human anguish. Love, the one thing in this world that can bring you immeasurable happiness and never-ending sorrow. On that fateful day, there was a storm brewing. I should have recognized it was an omen for disaster. It started off as any normal day. I would wake up to the sound of my alarm, hit the snooze button 20 times, and roll over and drift between consciousness and unconsciousness. Finally, the alarm would go off again and jerk me into reality, a place where most times I didn't want to be. I would continue on with my daily routine of showering, masturbating, and dressing, not in that particular order, but I'm sure you get the point. I brushed my teeth, rushed down to the dining room/kitchen combination, which consisted of an old oak table laden with useless knickknacks that my kleptomaniac aunt loved to collect, 4 rusty steel chairs that we found in some dump and fixed up ourselves, in a very old-styled kitchen that was in desperate need of repair. Here, I gathered together whatever I could to create some form of breakfast. The end result was oatmeal and some old expired jam. After I ate, Derek pulled up in his car, like he would every morning. I ran out the door, hopped in, exuberant over the ability to skip a dull and annoying conversation with my kleptomaniac aunt and self-absorbed alcoholic uncle. At this point, the dominoes fell according to plan. Things happened just as they should, just as they have been for the past 4 years of my life. For some reason this morning, I was a little more out of it than usual. You see, on a normal car ride to school, the average conversation would happen like this. Derek? Man, I can't wait for, insert sport teams here, game. Me, unenthusiastically, yeah, me either. This response often prompted a quick change in topic as Derek and I had an understanding about things of that nature. Derek, "Did you catch the latest episode of Insular popular TV show here?" And from there, my response would vary. If I happened to like the TV show, we would probably continue talking about it until we got to school. If I didn't, Derek would find some way to find a topic that appeased me. In retrospect, I often abused his willingness to give and put up with me, and that was probably one of the biggest things that caused me to love him so. Despite my overly apathetic demeanor, he still found some way to make me happy. Today, however, was different. Instead of responding in my normal manner, I simply looked out the window. I was looking for answers. I was searching for some reason why I felt the need to behave like this. Then an image flashed in my mind, and it was an image that had been played in my mind often. It was me, slowly inching towards Derek, slowly planting my lips on his, and letting my passion and intensity burst forth like a typhoon. It was only after this series of images replayed a few times that Derek attempted to get my attention. "Jacob?" he said. "Huh?" was my reply. Of all the words I knew, the only thing I could muster was a single utterance of the word, "huh?" "You okay? Something seems off." If only he knew the truth. If only he knew. If only he knew my true feelings. If only he could even begin to understand. If only, if only. "Yeah, I'm fine," was my immediate response, and I hoped he would let it go. Fortunately for me, we had just hit the school parking lot, so I was saved for now. Derek and I have every class together, and it's been like that since 6th grade. Even when we didn't have classes together, one of us would switch into the other's class just so we could be together. As friends, we were inseparable. We did everything together, from projects to essays to study sessions. It was as if fate and free will had intertwined into this amazingly complex system that forever bound him to me and me to him. Everything was perfect. The school day was an average, mediocre, run-of-the-mill experience that neither excited nor deflated us. We worked our way towards the car, and as he continued on about making the football team, those series of images played one after the other like a domino in some twisted pattern I wanted to forget. The image of me inching forward, boom, one domino. Me, softly planting my lips onto his. Bang, another. Derek pulling me closer to him. Boom, another. As these images played through my mind, I bumped into his car and fell to the ground. The sharp pain of gravel digging into my back brought me into reality. As I laid there, Derek only looked down at me and smiled. "You okay?" It was starting to feel like a repeat of this morning, only this time I knew I would be confronted by him. He knew me too well, and I was a rabbit stuck in his trap with nothing to do. "Yeah, I'm perfectly fine." I had to feign excitement and hope that it would intercept whatever thoughts were reeling through his head. Unfortunately, my plan didn't work as I intended. "No, you aren't. You know it. I know it. So just tell me. You know you can tell me anything." And that was it. The trap was sprung, and I was stuck, with no way of attempting escape. I started to breathe in heavily, and couldn't even look him in the eye. I started sweating profusely, and every time I tried to speak, no words would come out, just a little shriek. He just stood there, looking at me. I could feel his eyes gazing into my very soul. At that point, he simply walked up to me and gave me a hug. He should have never brought me that close. With his arms around me, giving me the protection I so aptly needed, I whispered into his ear, "I love you." He simply looked at me and said, "I love you too, bro. Why are you so worked up?" The response I gave was one that he did not want. "I don't mean it like that, Derek. I'm in love with you. Lately, I haven't been able to get you out of my head." These words are the words that begin the new path my dominoes following. He stood there and stared in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect. Then he pushed me inside, got in his car, and drove off, leaving me standing there. I looked up, and the rain began to fall heavily, and the only thought I had was at least the rain would hide my tears. The walk home was tough for me. The heavy rain left me soaked and made my clothes heavy, only adding more to the weight that was already on my shoulders. It was dark by the time I got home. I got inside, washed up, and dried off. I wanted to give Derek time to settle before I tried communicating with him. I wasn't sure what was going through his mind. Would he simply accept me for who I am? He's been there through worse with me in my life, and I only hoped this wouldn't hurt anything. But at the same time, I was scared. I didn't want to lose the one positive force in my life, but it was too late, so I only had one option: try and contact him. As I sat in my room, dialing his number for the umpteenth time, I heard my aunt scream downstairs, followed by the sounds of plates and glass shattering. As I heard the sound of footsteps slowly make their way up the stairs, I began to panic. Just as I got up, the door flew open. Before me stood 3 men wearing white hoods. I stood there in shock, my eyes wide in fear before the tall man in the center yelled, "Grab the fag." They dragged me out of my house and threw me into the car. I pleaded with them desperately to let me go, but it got me nowhere. All I got from my pleas was a hit to the stomach, knocked me in the wind out. We drove down a very long, dark road in the middle of nowhere for approximately 40 minutes. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew I was going to die. The only thing running through my mind was the image of Derek, the pictures of our paths that we were both on. One particular memory popped into my head and proved to be an amazing distraction. It was Derek and I, out in the countryside, wearing my hats, just recently. We were having the greatest time. I saw him. He was smiling. With a wind rushing past him, lifting up his hand, he was looking at me with that broad, gorgeous smile. I saw myself smiling. I was brought back to reality when the butt of the gun made contact with my jaw. I looked up and my attacker continuously beat me, each blow making a thunderous clap as it made contact with my skull. I tried to move my arm, but I was tied up to a tree on the side of the road. I found myself encircled by these three men, each with a baseball bat in hand. They each took turns hitting a home run against my ribs, each blow back in the air out of my lungs. They continued viciously beating me as I groaned and begged for their mercy. They simply shouted to shut up if I continued beating me. But I was gasping for breath when my attackers took off his head. With one last blow to my chest, Derek took my life. The hatred in his eyes was something I'd never seen in him before. And at that moment, the last domino fell. It fell into complete darkness. Well, that was my short story. I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next installment. Oh, and before I forget, question of the day. What was your favorite cartoon while growing up? Alright, see you guys next time.